Morning after the wedding felt unnaturally quiet, as if the house itself was holding its breath. Most of the decorations still hung where they had been left in the rush of celebration, ribbons drooping from the banister like tired smiles. In the living room, the faint scent of flowers already beginning to fade lingered in the air, sweet and slightly sad. Near the front door stood 2 suitcases, lined up neatly, waiting to be taken to the airport. Our honeymoon flight was supposed to leave at noon. I woke early, not from excitement but from habit, and began gathering the last things for the trip. Chargers, travel documents, my passport. Only the passport was not there. At first, I thought I had simply misplaced it. Weddings scatter belongings into strange corners, into borrowed bags and forgotten drawers. I checked the dresser, then my purse, then the slim folder where I always kept important papers. Nothing. In the kitchen, my husband stood pouring coffee like it was any other ordinary morning. I asked if he had seen my passport. He did not turn right away. When he finally answered, his voice sounded distant, casual. He had no idea. I continued searching, opening cupboards that had no reason to hold what I needed. The house was small. Passports do not simply disappear. A thin thread of unease began to wind itself through my chest. Then I heard the front door open. My mother-in-law walked in, pulling a rolling suitcase behind her. She looked satisfied, almost triumphant, like someone who had arrived exactly where she expected to be. She greeted us cheerfully, commenting that we were both already awake. I stood in the hallway still clutching the empty document folder. I asked why she had luggage. My husband took a slow sip of coffee before answering. He was going on the trip with his mother. For a moment I thought I had misunderstood him, that perhaps he was joking in some strange, dry way. The honeymoon, I clarified. He nodded as if we were discussing the weather. I could stay home, he said. They would travel now and we could postpone our trip together until later. His mother placed her suitcase beside the others and added that there was no reason to make things complicated. He had paid for everything, so naturally he could decide how the journey would happen. After a brief pause, she spoke more directly, telling me that in such matters a wife should obey her husband. The sentence hung between us like something carried forward from another century. I looked at him, waiting for him to correct her. He only leaned against the counter and shrugged. It was not a big deal. His mother had not traveled in years and he thought this would make her happy. I asked again about my passport. He suggested that I must have lost it. The calm of that moment felt rehearsed, almost theatrical. Suitcases by the door, my missing document, convenient explanations about money. Inside me, the unease began to change shape, sharpening into something colder. Before I could stop myself, I started laughing. It was not loud, just a quiet sound that escaped no matter how hard I tried to swallow it. My husband frowned, asking what was funny. His mother crossed her arms and said she would also like to know. I wiped a tear from the corner of my eye and apologized. The situation had simply arranged itself in such a revealing way. Neither of them looked amused. He told me I was overreacting. Maybe I was. I walked to the table and picked up my phone. I wanted to be sure I understood everything correctly. They were taking his mother on our honeymoon because he had paid for it, which meant I should remain at home. She nodded approvingly. I laughed again, softer this time, feeling something steady form beneath the disbelief. I opened my email and wrote to the travel agency. Months earlier, when my husband had struggled to finalize the booking, I had quietly stepped in. My company had a corporate account for arranging complex itineraries, and it had been easier to process flights, resort packages, and transfers through my authorization. At the time, it had not seemed important whose name was formally attached. Apparently now it was. I sent a brief message requesting that activation of the tickets be suspended until further notice from the primary traveler. The reply arrived quickly. Then my phone rang. The agent spoke in a careful, professional tone, confirming that without passport verification and account authorization, the tickets could not be issued to other passengers. I thanked her and ended the call. My husband watched me closely. He asked what I had done. I told him gently that the trip had been booked under my account. He blinked as if the room had shifted around him. Flights, resort access, transfers, everything required my approval. He insisted he had paid. I answered that he had told his family he had paid. His mother demanded an explanation. I showed them the confirmation email identifying me as the primary holder. My husband stared at the screen, searching for a response that did not come. I added that without my passport the tickets could not be activated anyway, which suddenly felt like a fortunate detail. For the first time that morning, the house grew truly silent. I said that if he and his mother wished to travel, they would probably need to arrange a new booking of their own. She turned to him sharply, reminding him that he had claimed everything was settled. He said nothing. I picked up my suitcase. He asked where I was going. I admitted I had not decided yet. The honeymoon we had planned might still happen, or it might not. The realization came with unexpected clarity. Control works only when the other person believes they have no options. Standing there with my luggage, I understood that I had more than I had allowed myself to see. I stepped outside into the cool morning air. Behind me the house seemed smaller, quieter, almost unfamiliar. My phone vibrated again with a message from the agent asking how I wished to proceed. I smiled for the first time since waking. Choice had returned, quietly but unmistakably. I opened the airline app and began searching for different destinations. Not the resort we had chosen together, but somewhere that felt entirely my own. Moments later the door opened and my husband called after me, asking if I was truly leaving. His confidence had thinned into uncertainty. His mother hovered behind him, still gripping her suitcase handle like a lifeline. I told him I was not running away. I was simply going somewhere I did not need permission to go. He said we could discuss everything calmly, that I was turning it into drama. I answered that the discussion had already happened when they decided to travel without me. The taxi arrived sooner than expected. While waiting, I checked my email again. Another confirmation appeared, stating that as the primary account holder I could change the destination without penalty. Strange how disappointment sometimes comes with unexpected privileges. He took a step closer and asked me to wait, suggesting we postpone the trip and go together later. I looked at him for a long moment and realized the journey was no longer the real issue. Trust, respect, honesty had quietly become the true destination. I told him maybe someday we would talk about it, but not today. I placed my suitcase in the trunk and got into the car. As the door closed, the world outside the window began to move. The house, the ribbons, the fading flowers slipped behind me. During the drive I felt a lightness I had not expected, as if each passing street was returning something I had lost. At the airport I chose a ticket at random, guided more by instinct than by logic. A single seat by the window. A departure within the hour. While waiting at the gate, I finally found my passport tucked inside the inner pocket of my wedding coat, exactly where I must have placed it the night before. I held it in my hands and laughed softly at the irony. It had never truly been lost. When the plane lifted into the bright morning sky, I realized that honeymoons are not always about traveling with someone else. Sometimes they begin the moment you decide to travel back to yourself. And for the first time since the wedding, the silence around me felt peaceful, meaningful, and entirely mine.